I'll answer the following question on Reddit to demonstrate some advanced business to business digital marketing challenges. This person is marketing software with an annual contract value of $100,000 using account based marketing. His boss wants to track cost per lead and customer acquisition cost by channel. First of all, cost per lead is a pretty meaningless measurement here. If you're doing account based marketing, you should already have a list of all the people you're targeting. You can get this easily by using LinkedIn Sales Navigator and extracting all the contact information using some sort of automated tool like scrap.io. Even if you don't use this particular method, you can use a different tool like ZoomInfo or just go buy a list from a broker. So instead of paying to generate leads, you can just compile all the targets that you want into a spreadsheet. Bypass lead generation altogether and go straight to lead nurturing. Lead nurturing is the difficult part. For example, you could import the list of target people into Facebook and LinkedIn and advertise to all of them using some sort of awareness campaign like video views, and of course you would use custom audiences. And then import that same list into Lemlist or Outreach for some automated cold email nurturing. This brings me to the second part of his concern, which is trying to measure performance by individual channels. It doesn't make sense to measure customer acquisition, in this case, by channel. Since account-based marketing involves so few people, so few targets, I'd run awareness ads with social media and then use email, phone, direct mail, etc. to get people into meetings for conversion. I'd also offer some sort of special incentive like $200 to sit through a demo. In other words, I'm using each channel for what it's best at. Social media ads are great at hitting all the targets cheaply with videos, whereas email is better at starting conversations and persuading people to join meetings. If you tried to measure customer acquisition costs by channel, email in this case would get all the credit and social media wouldn't get any. Of course, that's not what's really happening. We're using each channel for its strengths. Conversions happen best with something like email or maybe LinkedIn direct messages, which can be paid for within the sales rep's premium LinkedIn account. Social media ads are generally best at elevating your brand in people's minds or your specific product. Direct mail is great at persuading people that a meeting is worthwhile, even though a follow-up email may be necessary to get them to actually take action. All of these channels are working together, kind of like a soccer team where you have defense, midfielders, and strikers. Strikers get credit for the goals, but in reality, everyone plays a key role. Let's go back to the question of lead generation for a moment. With account-based marketing, it's often a waste of time to do lead generation. But there are key cases where you would want to run lead generation campaigns on something like LinkedIn or Facebook. This is when you have a large group of people you're targeting, and you would want to identify which smaller group you should focus on. For example, let's say you're targeting 50,000 people, but you only have budget to send 500 direct mail boxes. You could come up with a webinar that talks about solving the main problem that your product fixes. Whoever signs up for that webinar receives a follow-up with direct mail, emails, and more aggressive retargeting. So lead generation here is a triage device. It identifies the people you should invest more marketing budget into. But many marketers don't do this properly. Instead, they create lead magnets that attract the most amount of people possible. What you really want is a lead magnet that appeals to the people with the strongest probability of buying your product, or one that identifies people who have a near immediate need. The second part of the question concerns the $1,500 he's paying for leads on LinkedIn. I don't know how leads are defined here, but this amount is ridiculously high. You should save a lot of money by running ads focused on some sort of awareness objective. That way, you can use email, SDRs, and direct mail to get prospects into sales meetings. It's not efficient to run lead generation on LinkedIn ads for $1,500 each in most cases. And I probably wouldn't even use leads as a performance metric in this case. You could parse out LinkedIn direct messages and conversation ads and measure those based on meetings acquired. But the bulk of your LinkedIn budget probably shouldn't be spent there. He says his cost per opportunity is about $8,000. An opportunity is basically a prospect who has a high probability of buying from you or a competitor in the near future, say within 3 months, depending on your sales cycle. $8,000 is quite good here. Let's say the company closes about 1/3 of their sales opportunities. That translates to a customer acquisition cost of only $24,000 for an annual contract of $100,000. Many SaaS companies are willing to lose money on a customer for a year or two before they reap any profit. Here, the CAC, payback, is way less than a year. In reality, however, the true CAC, the true customer acquisition cost, is probably much higher, maybe $50,000. That's because the $24,000 estimate is probably based only on media budget and doesn't account for the cost of labor, including marketing and sales staff and other expenses. But even at $50K, the customer acquisition cost is still quite good for a $100,000 contract that will likely recur for 3 to 5 years. You should work with your finance department to figure out what a good customer acquisition cost is based on marketing spend specifically. Normally, software companies use a 1-year payback as a benchmark, but really, you need to account for your burn rate and net recurring revenue, which factors in things like churn rate, upsells, downgrades, and so on. My point here is that it's hard to know what a good customer acquisition cost is in your case. It depends on factors like how likely it is that a customer will stay with you and buy additional services in the future.